Are you guys interested to know what lockdowns are like around the world? From curfews in Albania and Saudi Arabia to very strict lockdowns in South Africa, Spain, and Austria. Listen to what it's like living in South Korea right now, where coronavirus testing is widespread, quick, and free, and often accompanied by a free government hamper. From apps and permission slips to giant fines and even public beatings, this is what lockdown is like around the world in 2020.
In the weekends, they do like a weekend lockdown. So from Friday until Monday morning, we're not allowed outside at all. No supermarkets are open, no bakeries, nothing. There's police and army now as well. And then from Monday, there is this new lockdown rule. And what they've done is they've created this app, which probably won't work. And you have to apply on the app to get a permit to leave the house for an hour. So you have an hour from this permit, and then you go to the supermarket, do what you need to do, and then go back home.
And Saudi Arabia started taking it really seriously. So even before the rest of the world kind of were taking it seriously, Saudi Arabia had already closed all schools, all colleges. And there was an announcement, I think, on the 14th of March that said that international travel will stop on the 15th of March. They introduced a curfew, so from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. you couldn't go out. Then they brought the curfew up to 3 p.m. So then you couldn't go out from 3 p.m. to 6 a.m. So even if you wanted to go for a run or anything, which we were allowed to do in the diplomatic quarter without our bias, we couldn't. So it was becoming a bit isolated.
I got back to Korea just as it was starting to hit. And actually the day I got back, there was someone in my building was tested positive with it. So that was a little bit strange. They were doing a good job of handling it here. Yeah, I've stuck around. We've never had an official lockdown. The social distancing has been promoted a lot more than the lockdowns. Like even within my neighbourhood, there's like still restaurants, coffee shops are still open. People aren't out and about as much. The only thing that definitely closed down was schools. A lot of the companies that could offer working from home offered working from home. But yeah, there's been no mandated lockdown of everywhere. So testing, yeah, the mass testing, if they think there's a slight chance you've got it, they will do the testing for free, treatments for free. So my husband, he had a bit of a fever. Said like, we don't, it's unlikely you've got it, but they gave him the option. And that cost him about £80. And it came back negative, thankfully, within 24 hours. Yeah, you get a text message the next day. I'm not fully sure on what the criteria is, but a lot of people that are getting tested are also getting goodie bags from the government, like little snacks and ramen and stuff like that. But the main thing they're doing is every time someone is confirmed case in your city, you get a text message. So it comes through as the emergency alerts and it tells you where they've been for the last few days. I know, for example, that the 44th person in Gyeongju went to a coffee shop nearby us and they went for a walk on the river in the last 2 days. Like a couple of people have been caught out having affairs and things. Like patient 27 and patient 89 were both in the same motel at the same time and like stuff like that.
So we were up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is like a couple of hours north of Malaga in Spain, and skiing with my brothers, actually on holiday for once, which was really nice. And then they closed like the mountains and the ski slopes on Friday night, which we actually didn't know about until Saturday morning. So we kind of woke up, got ready, had all the ski stuff on, went outside, and there was just no one about. The whole town was dead. Spain had started to kind of like go into lockdown then, and genuinely nowhere was open. It was just the whole town had shut down. Everyone had left. So we just thought, well, let's just head to Malaga because hopefully we'll find somewhere open there and we can get some food. And again, just complete ghost town. Like Sunday, I've never seen like a quieter city in my life. And we went down to the beach and there were like police and army trucks kind of setting up barricades and everyone would go on like the public beaches. Nowhere was open apart from, I think we saw 2 pharmacies that were open. That was basically it.
That's when the Italian prime minister got on the TV and we knew something was up because it was a very like high class bar that nobody else was in. And all of the staff was around the TV. And it just seemed very unusual that would be the case. They were translating it in Italian and Italy had gone red. And I was devastated. I was crying my eyes out in this bar. And I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the right thing to do was. I didn't know about the cost. I didn't know if we should leave, if we should stay and figure it out on our own. And then that night, bars started closing because they had already implemented the 1 meter rule. So most places were already being closed because of that. Wednesday, it was do not leave your house, do not go outside. The next day, less than 24 hours after we landed, they closed the border to Italy. They gave 3 hours notice.
We are on lockdown since March 16th. It was announced a couple of days early. Nobody really knew what lockdown was going to be like. Everyone was really surprised because we were one of the first countries in Europe to have a lockdown after Italy. They stopped everything. All hotels were closed the day before the lockdown. Since yesterday, all hotels in all of Austria are closed for tourism purposes. Starting Wednesday, we're supposed to wear masks when we go for grocery stores. The lockdown in Austria means we're not allowed to leave our homes except for 3 essential things, which is work, groceries, and of course, medical emergencies. I'm not sure if it's a law yet, but there's a new thing that everyone that's not essential or like vital to the system has to be working from home. And if that's not possible, you have to stay at home and you will still get paid. Also, our phone data is collected and anonymously, so they will look at the patterns, the movement patterns of people, and to see how they can link this to the spread of the virus.
And we first initially had about a week of the president saying like practice social distancing, informing people of washing their hands, the general. And I feel like a lot of people in South Africa were not taking it serious. Then a week after the president said social distancing, all of a sudden there was lockdown. He said on the 26th of March, we're going to implement the full lockdown. And that was on the 23rd of March. So he gave us like 4 days notice. And even though he asked people not to panic buy, that the essential services like pharmacies and food stores will be open, everyone went and panic bought. And it was just crazy. We couldn't go for walks anymore. Can't go to the beach. Our weekend social activities obviously died down. Only one person per family is allowed to go to the shops. So I went to the shops. People are friendly, but you can feel there's sort of a tension in the air. People don't really know what to do. And it is quite strict in the sense, hey, we're not allowed to go out for walks, exercise, nothing like that. You have to stay within your premises. Only reasons you are allowed out is to go to the food stores, if you have to go to a pharmacy, a petrol station, or the hospital.
I've never seen India like this. There was a total lockdown. I've lived in India for many years. In fact, I was born in India, lived in India. A lot of stuff has happened in India, but never has the country completely locked down, in the sense that, you could not go out, or just 2 people could not go out, and the cops would immediately come and would start asking questions, asking for the identification proof and everything. And then there were areas where there was news that cops are beating up people who are outside. I mean, I believe India needs to do something like this, because if the virus gets crazy in India, it can really go crazy, considering the amount of people that are there and the density of population.
It was pretty much just from 6 p.m. you couldn't leave your house. No grocery stores, no nothing. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't go to the beach.
I planned to do the whole of 2020 without flying as a big overland journey. So I finally set off on that adventure in March and managed to get through France and Spain really quickly. I got into Morocco, happy, country number 1 essentially. 2 weeks later, everything's had to be abandoned, including the no flying, because I had to take an emergency flight out of Morocco home. Suddenly everything just escalated so quickly from, oh, I'm not going to be able to go to Italy, how else can I get to Moscow, to suddenly, okay, maybe I'm going to have to be in Morocco for 2 months, I'll just stay here, to literally within 2 days, I got to get out. A follower on Instagram messaged me and said, do you know that they've shut the border to Italy and Spain? And I was like, what? No. And then the next day they shut the border to, I think it was 5 other European countries. And then on Instagram again, I saw a story by our great friend, Patrick, the German backpacker. And his story just said, wherever you are, get out now. Completely turned around in 24 hours. So the next flight I could get was I think this was Friday night. The next flight was Sunday morning. And then on Saturday, I got an email from the British Foreign Office saying they're going to close the borders soon. And I was just like praying they didn't do it basically before my flight left.
If you guys would like to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for quarantine stories with Janet and real travel stories.